Hi, good afternoon. Welcome to our webinar. Today our topic will be on promoting a modern baby-friendly workplace. Our speakers will discuss key points on the said issue, and later on, after the discussion, you as viewers, if you have questions, we highly encourage you to just type it in and we'll read it after the discussion. Today we have a very interesting topic. This is to be discussed by first um, IYCF Policy Consultant of UNICEF, Dr. Lay Alfonso. Hi, Dr. Lay. Thank you so much for having me here. Okay. Yes. Second speaker is Miss Sylvia Malabanan, co-founder of Latch Philippines. Hello. Okay, so let's start, Dr. Lay.
Sure. Yeah, hi. Actually, this is my first time to be in a webinar, but we'll try to be, we'll try to be interactive later. This is going to be an introduction. It's a patikim, no, on how we can create breastfeeding friendly, mother baby friendly workplaces, and we believe that uh, your sector, the HR managers, that play a very critical role in this important investment for the country. So what we will do now is to walk you through, distill the messages on the policies and help you to be able to actually do it. And
realize that it's not so difficult to do it. Yeah. So let's start. Before can I click? Yeah. So I'm disclosing that I do not have any conflict of interest for speaking on this topic. So again, I'm the IYCF policy consultant of UNICEF, and let's start with the presentation. So every $1 that is invested in nutrition actually generates $48 in net income and increased productivity. We're talking about a productive, a healthy population in the long term when we invest in nutrition. And among the nutrition sensitive interventions, breastfeeding is the best bang for the buck. And when we talk about breastfeeding, it's not just about nutrition and feeding babies, but it's also about preventing NCDs later on. We know about obesity and we know about cancer. And right now, there are more and more studies that link actually these diseases that develop later on in life and how babies are started in their lives as they were being fed. Not only that, even before they give they're born, no? So there are links already
already
that
that
there.
there.
Not only
Not
that,
only that,
studies
we can
show
know that it's a link in terms of intelligence and educational attainment in the long term. So we see that
what we do at the very start of life will have a big impact later on. Okay? So, okay, I'm clicking, stop moving. So, we have this window of opportunity. It's the first 1,000 days. Right now, the global community has started to focus on this critical period. It's very time sensitive. So, the good thing here is that the workplaces are very conducive for this intervention because you have women, they're working when they're pregnant, right? And then you have them working still when they go back to work after they give birth. And actually, that first 1,000 days is being covered by that. And whatever contribution that workplaces can have has a bigger impact in society later on. However, he mentioned then this is really time sensitive. So if you're going to intervene on grade 5 students,
Too late.
it's too late. We want to go on that first 1,000 days. That's the time when the organs of the babies are being formed in the womb, right? And that's when the brain is fastly developing. If you want an intelligence to be impacted, if you want an intelligent kid or intelligent Filipinos in the future, this is where we all have to work together. And so we are taking here a whole society approach. It's not just the health sector. I know I'm coming from the health sector, but then the business sector is also included here.
Yes.
Right? It's our joint forces. It's a help. It's helping together as a society in producing more productive, more intelligent, healthier population in the long run.
So, Doc, what you're
Yes.
saying is that hindi kayang bawiin yung hindi nakuha nung first 1,000 days.
Yes, sadly, irreversible siya. So even if like you have, I'm sure you know about the school feeding programs, but I'm afraid, I'm so sorry, the evidence does not support that because you cannot undo when the brain failed to develop properly during those critical periods. kung pong naging bansot na siya during the first 1,000 days, actually, yun nga po, medyo mahirap po siyang bawiin. That's why it's time sensitive. So, I think that's very clear right now. And this is the best contribution, I think, that the that the business sector can contribute to the society. Okay, so what is happening actually in the Philippines? Okay, you see here, if moms want to breastfeed, they can initiate breastfeeding in the first hour of life. And then the recommendation is actually to exclusively breastfeed for 6 months. I'm sure you may be wondering how many people have actually done that. Yeah, in fact, out of 3 moms in the Philippines, only one would succeed in actually doing this. How many of you have kids? You realize it's not as easy. It's not as easy, especially if you go back to work. Here in this timeline, you see that many moms default when they see these hurdles. And one of the biggest hurdles is actually going back to work. So again, bear with this graph. I don't know how many of the listeners are coming from the different regions, but you see breastfeeding rates by region here. The red line there on top, near the 75%, is the target. That's the passing rate. And the Philippines is actually not making it. And so we see this when they grow up, they were not, we were not able to really provide that optimal nutrition. It's not just the health system. Okay, what does this mean? It's not just doctors or the health system telling moms that they should breastfeed. But we ask a mom. It's very instinctive for any mother to want to breastfeed, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
It's very instinctive, and many moms think that it's natural. However, well, yeah, they will realize later on, 85% of them who stop would actually want to breastfeed longer. So, yeah, there are costs involved. So, for example, if you have a mom that is not breastfeeding, you're taking in formula. Formula is not the same as, of course, breast milk. The breast milk does not only contain nutrition, but also immunoprotectants. And this immunoprotection that is offered by breast milk is not present in cow's milk, which is formula. Basically, formula is cow's milk that is formulated, yes, to be able to provide the nutrients, but it will not never provide the optimum protection. And so these kids are actually can be 6 times more likely to get certain infections. And if you have a mother, of course you cannot focus if the child
He's
is
sick.
sick. It's very difficult. I have my own kid and it's not easy. So you don't want this, right? So in the study in the US, you see that 1 day absences to care for sick children occur more than twice for those mothers of formula feeding infants. And in the country, there has not been a study yet. Yeah, but then of course you would argue that the context may be different. But then I think it's not really at all different
It's
right
probably
now.
going to be worse with a
Probably.
healthcare system that is not as established as
Yeah.
other countries.
Yeah. So the thing is, even though this is in a different country, the thing is we can interpolate this. It's very logical. If you have a child who's sick, then it's more difficult to focus at work. Okay. On a more practical note, did you know that if you actually stop breastfeeding or choose to formula feed, it's actually use it or lose it for moms? What does that mean? If you don't use the breast milk, if you don't use the breast, the hormones that are there to sustain milk productions, they're affected.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the stimulation of breastfeeding will not continue and uurong yung milk. That means use it or lose it.
Yes.
I think that's very clear now. And so once the mother stops or decrease yung kanyang breastfeeding, mawawala yung milk later on. And of course, ang mangyayari sa baby, they'll still have to feed. And so the cost is around 4,000 per month for families. And you can imagine if this is the salary of your worker, it's what, this is not a simple 4,000 pesos. This is actually on the lower end. And of course, you will see advertisements talking about different things, additions. They will try to simulate what's in breast milk, of course, and that will become more expensive, hypoallergenic, etc., etc. And that will become more expensive as you go. Okay, so you see, we also interviewed in the toolkit people, and one of the things that for those that are working in factories, the reason why they ask for advances is when their child is sick or they don't have money to buy them. And yeah, it's a sad fact. So now, actually, that's an introduction. But this is the walkthrough. We want to make it simple for everyone. Distill the key messages. How do you actually create a breastfeeding friendly workplace? So we have a toolkit, as you see in the title page. And the toolkit was developed in collaboration with all the different sectors. It's not just the health sector, but we have DOLE there. We also have ILO. We also have employers groups. So this is the output, and we will give you more details later. So what is a breastfeeding friendly workplace? And in simple terms, what comprises it? Okay, and then we will show you how to implement. Later on, Ms. Sylvia will give you actual examples, and that is the more exciting part. This is the boring part. Okay. All right. So, what is a breastfeeding friendly workplace really? It's just two things, really. It's just two simple things. It's just time and space. Okay. How a workplace would cope with it, it really depends on the context. But it's just two essential things: time and space. Time and space. So what is time? Time so that a mother can breastfeed or collect breast milk if the baby is away. And space, of course, you want that space to be clean. And of course, some privacy, of course, so that the mother will not be embarrassed to do it. And yeah, she will feel safe to do it. Now, the policy encompasses these two. The policy also includes breastfeeding information, not just for the mother, but also for the co-workers. Because, of course, if a mother has to take some time off to express breast milk, dapat alam ng boss niya kung bakit. And of course, if the boss may not be supportive, it may be difficult for that mother to do so. And lastly, the compliance with the EU 51. Again, we're talking about a policy here. Why do you need a policy? We'll show that later. So let's go to the first component. Why does a mother actually need to breastfeed at work or express breast milk at work? Can you imagine if a mother just gave birth and suddenly goes back to work? The baby doesn't stop feeding, diba? And the recommendation, the optimal recommendation is exclusive breastfeeding for 6 months. How is that even possible, right? And so a mother, ideally, if she wants to continue, and hopefully she really wants to continue, she really needs support in continuing providing for that baby back home. Only she can fulfill this role. The dad cannot do it. The Lola, how I wish, right? And the Lola, of course, cannot do it. It's just really the mother. And of course, the breast milk of that mother is very specific to the needs of that child. And I cannot overemphasize that too. Beyond nutrition, as I mentioned, it's just not nutrition, but protection and optimal development. Did you know that the breast milk also has the optimal balance of fatty acids that would build up the brain? It's the building blocks of the brain. And so the balance of this changes as the child grows. And that would lead to, better brain functioning later on. And so we want this to be continually supplied to the baby. And as I mentioned, it's use it or use it. The mother needs to empty her breast so that the stimulation will continue and she can maintain or protect her milk supply. If she does not do it in the same way that she would as continuously with the baby, then the breast milk might be affected. Okay? And on a more practical note, it's painful. For those of you who have already given birth here, you know that if you don't breastfeed for a certain number of hours, parang puputok siya. No? And even for those single women here, who might be listening, you have to be able to empathize with those moms. It's not comfortable. You can imagine na parang nagli-leak siya the whole day, and then it's really not comfortable. So please, yun lang. Those are the two main reasons. So we have a law, in fact, to protect this. You have the Expanded Breastfeeding Promotion Act of 2009. And again, it encapsulates the policy that I mentioned earlier. Ano nga yung components? First, the time, and then the space, and then the breastfeeding information and compliance with the milk code. All right, so that's everything. The workplace lactation policy is in fact the focus of this toolkit and everything that we want to do. It starts here. Many of the employers would want to start with, Yeah, we want to have a lactation station. Understandable. It's nice to have. Really, it's nice to have. But then beyond that, what would facilitate that is an explicit policy in the workplace. Many of you already have breastfeeding friendly workplaces. Why don't we make it explicit? Isn't it? It's a challenge. So it's just making it the policy part of the establishment's general policy manual. We have a toolkit for this. And then it should be disseminated not just to the women, but also to the other employees, I mean, including everyone, really,
Yes.
everyone. So, and it should contain the provisions of RA 10028. We'll go into the details of that later. So the space is simple. It doesn't need to be another complicated structure. It just needs to be a safe, clean space, privacy, okay? But not in the toilet, not in the toilet. Do you want to actually feed something that was expressed in the toilet?
Do you want to eat in the
Do you want to
toilet?
eat in the toilet? Yes. Do you want to? No one wants to eat in the toilet. At least this will be given to the baby. So we want that safe space. Okay. So Dole actually gave out guidance in this, and we Sylvia will be providing actual examples later. Okay. So the third one is the time. The law provides that there should be no less than 40 minutes for every 8-hour shift. So why? Why is this? Because we want to simulate the number of times that the baby will breastfeed if ever magkasama sila ng nanay. That's the physiological way to protect the milk supply. And again, if we don't do this, it's going to be painful for the mom. And this should be counted as compensable hours at our work. And sometimes the moms actually, they say, it has to be flexible also. It depends on the mom also how they balance this. But this is what the law provides. Okay? And then provision for information. So again, this can be part of breastfeeding classes, posters, pamphlets, and videos. This can even be including linking up with mother support groups in the area. You don't really need to be the one to teach it. And many of the HR managers might be wondering, I am single, I don't have, but I don't even know anything about breastfeeding. You don't have to stress yourself about it. There are resources in the community. And the requirement is just please comply with EO 51. Okay, this is just an example of a testimonial of how the workplace has been part of the success story of a breastfeeding journey. And this is from a corporate social responsibility manager of ECHO. And so it's important that the workers, that the co-workers also understand, and that's why we need the breastfeeding information in place. Okay, lastly, compliance. I will not discuss this in detail because this is Patikim. There is an entire module on this. Just to clarify, when you talk of EO 51 in this aspect, it's about the Philippine Milk Code that regulates the marketing, unethical marketing of breast milk substitutes. When we say regulation of of marketing, it doesn't mean it prohibits the sale. No. For example, when you get a flour in supermarkets, do you see a flour says that flour, harina, no? Or sugar maybe. Do you see a sugar that tells you this will turn you into a super genius? You don't see that in the sugar, but it's not prohibited to actually sell sugar. But then to be truthful about the claims of a particular product, then that is what it tries to regulate, the unethical marketing. And so the details of this, the covered products are all in the toolkit, and we are not focusing on why you should not. We want to focus on what is the reason why the law is there. Okay, so it's really more on the whys. So I will not, I will not further delay the action. So there are more tools and available learning things available here. Sample policies in here. Okay, this is already here. Everything is in here. And then there are different modules targeted to different audiences. You can present this to your boss, or you can actually be the one to discuss this with your employees. And then for the mothers and family members. So this is a toolkit. Again, you can download it for free in this website. We will be sending a shorter link later. So I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, lovely.
Yeah.
Wonderful. So now I'm going to talk about real examples of all the things that Doc Lee talked to you about the policy. So we'll show you specific examples. So we'll show you sample policies, sample lactation rooms, how mothers make use of their lactation breaks. It's not always necessary that it's just about expressing milk. So I'll show you how mothers can use their lactation breaks. Then ideas on how to provide the breastfeeding information, which is one of the components in the workplace policy. You need to provide breastfeeding information. So we'll show you how you can do that without having to stress about it, as Doc Lay was talking about. And finally, complying with the Milk Code or the Executive Order 51 of 1986, talking about how we can promote breastfeeding in the workplace within the legal limits of the law and making sure that it's an ethical promotion of breastfeeding. It is without conflicting commercial interests. So here are sample policies. Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas is one of the most known for their breastfeeding friendly workplace. They just got awarded recently by DOH for their mother-baby friendly workplace. And just this August, they are awarded by the Philippine Pediatric Society during the Breastfeeding Congress for their advocacy in breastfeeding. So this is really a model company when it comes to mother-baby friendly, and this is their policy. Their policy content, essentially, I can't show you the entire policy, but I'll show you the general content. So it talks about what the employees that are covered, what policies are in place in terms of establishing the lactation station, the time, and then the provision of breastfeeding information. And they're very specific about who department is responsible for what in this policy, which is a very good thing because they really make it clear who's responsible. And finally, they have a part on procedures. They implemented a form to request their use of their lactation rooms just to make it official that the employee has informed the supervisor that they will be using the lactation rooms. And also the use of areas that are not lactation rooms but will be used as an alternative. Because again, when a mother needs to express milk or breastfeed her baby, it doesn't have to be a special room. As long as it's clean and private, you are still providing them what they need. So specifically, this is what the BSP policy says in coverage. It's all female employees, regardless of the nature of their appointment, who is breastfeeding her infant and or young child is regarded as a nursing employee. So they define infant as a baby that is between 0 to 12 months, and young child is from 12 months to 36 months. So you will understand that the breastfeeding does not necessarily have to end at 2 years of age. It can extend beyond 2, which is really what is recommended, to go beyond the age of 2. A nice thing about their policy is that they say specifically that it is a shared responsibility among the nursing employees, their co-employees, peers, supervisors, and of management. They're creating a culture that is supportive of breastfeeding. And this is really important because that's what women need the most, working women. They need to know that it is that they are free and that they are safe to breastfeed without having an impact on their whether they're seen as productive or not. Because sometimes the concern of mothers is that people will think na, ba't palagi ka nalang nasa lactation room? But if you have a supportive culture, then that everybody understands that the woman is doing what she needs for her baby and still wants to be a contributing member of that company. This is really what this is about. What else is the BSP policy contain? It really talks about how they're going to establish their lactation stations. And again, it's about clean, well-ventilated, comfortable, and private areas. They talk about the time, and they've gone beyond the law. The law requires 40 minutes on top of the usual lunch and coffee breaks, but they specifically say they can go up to 90 minutes for every 8 hours. You don't have to do this. I'm just saying that BSP has gone that extra extent of giving mothers a range from a minimum of 40 to not more than 90 minutes. Here, they identified the offices. So they said health services office shall conduct shall facilitate the conduct of prenatal and postnatal classes and provide information specifically on expression, storage, and the transport of breast milk. They also identified it to be the central office that will evaluate the entire program. Then they identified that their HR Wellness Division will be the one conducting other activities to support breastfeeding, as well as oversee the maintenance and the use of the lactation station. So they were very specific. It's a 3-page document that BSP has. So when you're crafting your policy, you will try to want to customize very specific to the needs of your office. IBM is another company that has been recognized for supporting breastfeeding, and this is what they have. They talk about the coverage of the policy, the guideline for the use of the what they call employee mother wellness rooms, and then they talk about how to use the employee mother's wellness room, how to schedule the time, how to access it, and again, they specify the responsibilities of the women using the room. They also talk about where their employee mother wellness rooms are in their policy. So it's already specified in their policy where these rooms will be located. They have a special clause, which is not something you will find and it's not required by law, but IBM will actually allow mothers to ship their breast milk back home, and they have a very broad guidelines for this on when it is allowed. So I will talk about that more specifically. So in IBM, this is what they said. They want to have a family conducive workplace that enables the mother to balance her breastfeeding with her work responsibilities. And this is really ultimately what we want. We want mothers to feel that they can do both because it is possible. They gave guidelines on how to use it and how she should inform her manager. So they follow the law and they say maximum of 40 minutes per 8-hour work shift on top of her usual breaks to use these rooms for expression. So IBM has several work sites, and you can see that they've really invested in one work site. The two biggest work sites, they have 4 wellness rooms in each work site, and in the smaller ones, they have 1 lactation station in each of these. So here's the special thing about IBM. It's their nursing mom breast milk delivery reimbursement. Breastfeeding mothers may ship breast milk from the office to her home. So under what conditions? Actually, any condition where the mother feels her milk stash is not going to be sufficient and she needs to send the milk that she has expressed at work already. So if she knows she will not be able to come back that the milk will run out before her shift ends or before she gets home, she can schedule for a pickup and delivery to her home so she has peace of mind that my baby will be provided for while I am at work. Again, it's a very broad policy. She does not have to really justify, so it can be because she's working overtime. She will not have enough at home. She will not be able to go home because she's staying overnight, so she has to ship baby milk in advance. But these are not limited, and for approval for reimbursement, none. So any mother, if she wants to send milk to her baby from the office, she will be reimbursed for that expense and it will not require any approval from anybody. It's a very generous policy and IBM, thank you for doing this. There are other companies that do it, but not in the Philippines. IBM is the only one that I know does this right now. So in terms of policy, those are 2 sample policies. Now I'll show you more visual things. Sample lactation station. So this one is from Aegis People Support. If you can see, it's just parang portalet. It's just a portable structure. It is very easy to install. They have 9 stations, 1 per floor. And this is what it looks like inside. It's just a well-ventilated room. You can see that there's a small window at the back so that there's fresh air coming in. A chair. They put a mirror in, and they also put a power outlet for mothers who use electrical pumps but that's it. Very easy to install, probably not very high cost. So that's one way that you can have a lactation station without necessarily having to create a room. It's really just a small uh, portable structure. Land bank. This is a land bank's lactation station. Land bank is unique in the sense that their lactation station is right beside their daycare. They have both. So mothers can put their babies at the daycare and directly breastfeed under lactation station if they wanted to. But I think right now their daycare, they've limited it to not include babies. So right now the daycare is really purely a daycare. This is the BSP, the Bangko Sentral. This is what their lactation stations look like. They're just, it's one room and they just put cubicles and put a privacy, curtain. So again, many women can use a single room. It's a very functional space. BSP, what they've also done is they've put a wall of inspiration. All the baby pictures of all the breastfeeding babies are there. It's a nice touch. It's a nice thing to do. It's again a nice best practice to adopt if you also decided to have a lactation area in your office. Here, I just wanted to show you that if you really want to, you will find a way. In Josephine's in Tagaytay, their banquet office is also the breastfeeding station. They made it double purpose. So they just put an area where there's a ref, a small ref. If you see, they even have a breastfeeding poster in the from DOH. So they have breastfeeding information and just a comfortable chair. Again, you don't need, you know, bells and whistles. If you provide the minimum of what clean and comfortable is, then you're giving, and privacy, then you're giving moms what they need in order to continue breastfeeding. So congrats to Josephine's for, having the will to finding a way to make, even if they have limited space, to find a way to make a breastfeeding station in their restaurant. Again, I just wanted to show you how if there's a commitment, you will find a way. In this restaurant in Burgos, Batangas, Joanna's, they just put a small area. They put their curtains there that you can put down. That they made as a lactation station, I guess, for their guests. There's also again breastfeeding information from DOH. You don't again, if you want to do something, it can be done. So how can mothers use their lactation breaks? May typo pa ako. Uh, Here's how. One is they can hand express. People always automatically assume that for you to be able to continue expressing milk, you will need equipment. Your hands are the best equipment, actually. And I know of many working moms who don't use pumps and are able to express 100% of their baby's needs just by using their hands. Why do we promote hand expression? Because it is free. Um, you can control the pressure, so any nipple damage or breast trauma can be avoided because you know how much pressure you're applying. And again, because it's free. It's a great skill to have whether or not you choose to do this all the time or if you want to use a pump. So the other option is for mothers to use breast pumps.
Can I add just very quickly from a medical standpoint, if you have all of those equipment that you need to clean, it can take time also.
Yes.
And then you have to
yeah.
dodge them around. But it's a good skill, as I mentioned, and you don't need to bring a lot of stuff with you if you have the
Yes.
skill.
So if you will notice here, this is Claire. Claire works at the BSP. So she has access to lactation stations, but she is choosing to do it at her table. She just puts a nursing cover or a scarf to cover because then she cuts down on the amount of time she has to travel, etc., etc. So the other thing that you need, well, would be nice to promote in your workplace is that women are not limited to expressing milk at the lactation station. If they can find other ways or in other private places that they're willing to do it, that should also be allowed and encouraged. Whatever works for the mom should be encouraged. Then, this is the one that you don't see don't see often, but it's really the best thing. You bring your baby to work and you breastfeed directly. Yun talaga, zero equipment. Kasi the baby is stimulating your milk supply, and babies are the best at stimulating and keeping mother's milk supply good. The no hand and no pump can ever come as close as to how good a baby will keep you. And then you prevent by the issue of babies becoming what we call nipple confused or cup confused, because sometimes when you give them the milk in not directly, they get confused as to how to drink it, and sometimes they will refuse the mom, or they will refuse the cup, or refuse the bottle. So really, it's another way a lactation break can happen. It doesn't have to be an expression. It can be a direct feed. So this is Anna, and what she does is she brings her yaya to her office. She's very lucky that her office has allowed it. She has a small portable crib. So that's how she breastfed her baby. Her baby has never had to take a bottle. Okay, here's another photo. This was taken from the toolkit that Dr. Clay was talking about of how mothers can breastfeed directly um, at the lactation station at work. This is Iya Velanyat. This is a picture from the Philstar. She's breastfeeding at work. So this is really what's ideal, is that we are able to do this for, and I don't know if you've seen it, like the Prime Minister of New Zealand brought her baby to the UN, right? The UN.
Yes.
And the reason for that is because she will need to breastfeed her 3-month-old baby. So if we all start thinking differently about how mothers and babies can work together, can be together at work, and it does not will not impact on the productivity of the mother. In fact, enhance it.
Efficiency.
Yes. If we all start thinking differently, I mean, I know this is not right now, but maybe in the future we can also start thinking of bringing babies to work, because really combining the two is what would be wonderful. Okay, so breastfeeding information. Doc Lee talked about this. I just copied it. How can we give breastfeeding information to employees? You can do lunch and learn breastfeeding talks at work. This one was done by my group, Latch. We were invited by RFN, and we did a 1-hour talk during lunch just on breastfeeding. Okay, so there are support groups and resources that you do. This doesn't necessarily have to come from your company. You can just approach them and ask, request for a class. So that's one way. If you don't want to take into the productive time during lunch, you can do breastfeeding talks. You can give pamphlets for free. So this is like a 7-day checklist, breastfeeding checklist that you can give to someone who just gave birth. That's downloadable from the net. World Vision has pamphlets for free. So you can ask World Vision, oh, you have an entire booklet on how to breastfeed and their laws. Again, for free, you can ask for these materials without added cost to the company. Pamphlet for your managers. I couldn't find one that's local, but this one I particularly like because they really made a specific pamphlet for managers to talk about how managers have such a huge impact and influencing whether a mother will continue. Because if your boss is behind you, then you're more likely to continue breastfeeding at work. So UC San Francisco really made a specific. Are we over time? We're okay. All right. So again, available on the net for free. There are already breastfeeding classes at hospitals like Medical City, St. Luke's, Makati Medical. They all have breastfeeding classes. So if you cannot organize a class for your office, then maybe you just find out what the existing classes are at these hospitals and direct your employees to attend these classes. Maximize what is already available. Um, Support groups. This is a great way to have continuing support at the office for companies that can manage it, like BSP. really has a very organized peer support group. So, or you can have mother wellness circle. So, but you can also outsource it. It doesn't have to come from your office. In the toolbox, in the implementation toolbox of, you will find a partial list of the breastfeeding support groups in the Philippines. So again, if you cannot create a support group at the office, that's okay. There are already existing support groups and you can direct your employees to them so that they can get information and support from these groups. So let's talk about Executive Order 51. In this case, we're talking about milk code, which is the regulation of how formula and other products that compete, essentially compete with breastfeeding, how that it shouldn't have an influence on how breastfeeding is taught. So when you're implementing your policy, you have to make sure that infant formula and other related products like baby bottles, artificial nipples, do not have any participation in your workplace program. So I will show you an example of someone who didn't. So this is a lactation station. I hope you can. It was sponsored by a breast pump company. And that breast pump company also happens to be a bottle and nipple manufacturer. So it's sending a mixed message. And in a way, what happens here is that the bottle companies are able to bolster their image through breastfeeding, which is not ideal, which is not what you want to do. And it can be very confusing to moms that you're saying you're promoting breastfeeding, but the company that or the materials you have in your breastfeeding room pertain to things that compete with breastfeeding. So you don't want to send that mixed message. And this is an example of what not to do. You should not have commercial interests that are contrary to breastfeeding.
But again, Sylvia, we will just have to emphasize that this is the provision of the law. It's not because Sylvia or Dr. Leslie
Yes.
says it. It's really a provision of the law, which is sometimes
Yes.
overlooked. And that's why in the toolkit we already have there like some forms to ensure that you are protected, some forms to help you as you establish the policy to prevent these kinds of
Yes.
conflicts.
So when there's milk code violations, we call them milk code violations. I don't have a slide for it, but there is a monitoring app that you can submit so that you can report. So that's the Mother Baby Friendly Philippines.
Yeah.
There's an app for that. And there are also international watchdogs like IBFAN, where if your company does not comply, you will find yourself in that website. Yeah, in that
We don't want to
website,
be there.
and it's not a very complimentary position to be in because they will say violator, and you don't want to be that. So that's it. We covered sample policies. I showed you some samples of lactation stations. Gave you ideas on how you can do breastfeeding information and how to comply with the milk code of the country. So thank you so much. We'll start answering questions that are here.
Okay.
But is it possible, like, just before we go that way, no? I think what we need to emphasize here is that by having a mother-baby friendly policy in your workplace, you're also helping with the retention of women, many driven women, when they read, they really want to breastfeed. And I know a couple of my friends, they would stop working because they want to focus on certain things like after giving birth and all. They have their priorities, and you don't want to lose that. And
Yes.
so you want these women to continue working, to continue being productive. And I believe that it's for the benefit also of the companies
Yes.
to have these high potential women wanting to work for them because they have these policies.
Yes. I'm an example of that. I worked for Unilever for 11 years. I was in sales. It's a very time consuming job. But because at that time there was no law yet, but despite having no law, we had a culture that allowed me, that was supportive of me to continue breastfeeding. And that's why I was able to breastfeed my 3 children up to 2 years. All 3 of them. So that was a gift that I'm always so proud of and thankful that Unilever allowed me to do that. So I stayed for 11 years. I guess that's how you retain. I mean, proof of how you can retain women when you're supportive of their desire to balance their motherly duties and their work duties because they want to do both.
Yes, yes.
Okay, there's a medical question here.
All right.
Okay, what is the effect if the mother is undergoing medication if she
Oh,
breastfeeds?
yes. What is the effect if mothers undergo medication? Yeah, it's quite tricky. We get a lot of questions regarding that. For one, we talk about what happens when the mother is taking medication. Of course, it circulates in the blood, and some very little goes into the breast milk. Okay.
Mhm.
When we're talking about drugs that are contraindicated in breastfeeding, there are very little, as in konti lang talaga.
Yes.
No, kasi konting-konti lang yung lumalabas dun sa breast milk. And so the doctor should be able to know, the doctor who's prescribing should be able to know that you're breastfeeding. And then sometimes also the labels themselves, they're very defensive.
Yes.
Because the labels of medicines, they if they don't test it, say on breastfeeding women, they cannot make a claim for it. And so it is framed very defensively that you don't use it. There's a very nice website. You can go to LACMED. LACMED.
Yes,
We will be
LACMED.
sending the link now. The LACMED keeps a database of the safety profiles of drugs when used for breastfeeding. We will be sending you that. And of course, talk with your medical provider that you are breastfeeding. So yeah. So yeah.
Though I have to admit, not all doctors know about LACMED.
Yeah, that's quite
So sometimes it's easier for doctors to say stop breastfeeding because they're unsure and they want to. But there are costs to you not breastfeeding, so
right.
you also have to balance that.
Right.
So if you are told to stop breastfeeding because you're taking medication, go to LACMED, look it up, bring it back to your doctor, because they will give you
Yes.
a summary of what the effects of that medicine will be. You can show it to your doctor and then discuss with your doctor whether really do you have to stop or is there an alternative medicine that you can take that is safer
Right.
for you and the baby.
Yes.
Doc, don't like elactantia.org.
You can also do that. Huh?
So the two
Please read
websites
like
are
that.
LACMED and the other one is e-lactantia.org. Both of them have very comprehensive um, databases on the effect of that medicine to a breastfeeding baby. So
There are very few medicines
very
that are
few.
contraindicated. For example, radioactive drugs. Of course, I don't think anyone
Yeah.
here would be like, yeah.
Yeah.
And then you have
Chemotherapy.
Yeah, chemotherapy drugs and antipsychotic drugs. Certain antibiotics, but all of them can have alternatives that should be safe for breastfeeding. So that should not be a big problem. The doctor should be able to, shift to a safer one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, Dokoy, since you've mentioned a while ago that kapag hindi sila nag-breastfeed, para mag-stop.
Oh,
So
okay.
there is a question here.
Oh, okay. Let me
how-
clarify quickly.
Okay.
Go ahead.
How to revive breast milk? I stopped nursing 3 months.
Yeah.
6 months.
Hi there. Yeah. So it's not automatic. It doesn't mean like if you don't breastfeed for one day, then it automatically stops. Um, it's a process. It's a process wherein the body is weaned off the hormones that sustain breastfeeding because it doesn't receive the continuous stimulation that it needs, that is required. So it's very gradual usually. It doesn't like halt like next week wala na akong gatas kasi hindi ako nag-breastfeed niya. In fact, I have to tell you, like when I went away for a year to study, and when I came back, I still had breast milk.
Really?
Yes, I did. I'm sure many of you will be shocked to hear that, but that's how robust the breast milk production is because it's our species survival. Our babies need to eat, right? So it's very robust. So going back to, okay, what if I've already stopped and I want to revive breastfeeding? I would always say it is possible. It is really possible through relactation, and there's a process in doing that. It is not as simple as turning it on and off.
Mhm.
I have to admit that, but it is doable. In fact, we know of what do you call it? They're adopting.
Yes.
Yeah, those mothers who
Who
want to
adopt.
adopt babies, they prepare themselves and they would breastfeed
Yes.
So that is really possible biologically because the milk production is really just controlled by the stimulation in the brain. Going back now to what if I've stopped breastfeeding and I want to revive? I say it's possible, but it's not very simple. It's a process that you have to go through. It's called a relactation, and there are some people in the country who can do it. You really have to have intensive support. So I always go back to preparation. Why, if you're really having a baby, it starts with pregnancy. At pregnancy itself, you have to decide what feeding process do you want to have. Do you want to breastfeed? Because it starts off with a good, if you don't have that bumpy start, it will really help you sustain it. So starting off, say, with unang yakap, that is like initiating breastfeeding at the first hour of life. Because if you do not, then mommies would have a bumpy start. They would say, the baby doesn't want to breastfeed, it's difficult, it's painful, just because they were not initiated the way nature intended them to initiate. And so all the other problems spring from that, and then they eventually stop. I hope I addressed
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
So if you want help on relactation,
Yeah.
medyo mahabang kwento yun
It's
eh.
yeah.
Yeah, there are a few people who do it, but maybe you can just drop a message
Yes, sure.
and we can send you the specific information
yes.
for how you can get help on
We can connect.
relactation.
Okay, so Miss Sylvia, why HR practitioners? Why are we reaching out to them now?
Well, kasi HR, usually you're the ones that are the vanguards of policy and the vanguards of employee, uh, what's the word? Satisfaction. So really, you can be great partners for making the lactation program work in the company. You can be the hub where the rest of the company can get on board and really get a good lactation program happening.
Okay, we have a workshop coming up, right?
Yes.
On the 28th. Is it?
It's there. Sorry, I'm sorry. Click it there.
Yes. It's on September 28th on Friday, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. at the City State Hotel Ermita, Manila. So this is sponsored by DOH and in cooperation with DOLE, OSH, CSC, UNICEF, World Vision, and LATCH, and also PMAP. Okay, so it's a workshop on mainstreaming wellness for women and children through breastfeeding in the workplace. Okay, if you're interested to join, you may register through me. You may email me. It's for free, right?
Yes.
It's for free, and we highly encourage you to join them. Kasi they need our inputs, our comments on this.
You have to hurry because the slots are limited. Hurry
Yes.
with Kate.
Yeah.
The slots are limited. This is for free. So this is a workshop.
I don't know. I think
I think
maybe
it's the start
it's
of
the
It's the
first.
start.
It's the
of,
first, but
yeah.
they probably will intend to do more.
Okay. So you may just email me and we'll coordinate with DOH regarding this. Okay. So for our last question, ma'am. So if employers like comply with this policy, what's in it for them? What would be the effect? Like would the employees be
Yes.
more engaged
Yes.
or?
So maybe the first thing is it's compliance. Yeah. Compliance with the law, of course. The law is there for a purpose. It's really for society's benefit. What's in it for them? Also, you'll have a workforce. Mommies who are, if they want to breastfeed, they'll have more peace of mind that they're supported. And so you've already seen that if we provide this nutrition, this optimum protection for the babies, we'll have healthier babies. And so that will, well, eventually translate hopefully to decrease in
Cost
absences.
and decrease cost for
And
healthcare
yes, decrease
for
cost
both
of
the
healthcare.
mother and the baby because
Yes.
breastfeeding has protective properties for the mother as well. So there's a benefit in that sense that your healthcare costs for mother and baby are lower for companies.
And of course, the satisfaction in work, knowing that the company is behind
The
me in this goal, and the retention
Yeah.
that can happen. Yeah.
Okay, so I think there are no any other questions from our viewers. So we had 72 viewers.
Wow.
Yes. So
Hi. Thank
they're
you for
that
your time.
interested. Okay, so that's it for our webinar today. Again, we invite you to join our annual conference this October 10 to 12
You may register through Miss Rona Bagarino. You may email her at rona.bagarino@pmap.org.ph. And for more updates, you may like our Facebook page, www.facebook.com/pmap1956, or you may visit our website at www.pmap.org.ph. That's it for today. Thank you, everyone. Bye. Good afternoon.
Thank you, Kate.